Hello, we have another very special guest. In fact, Joanne and I were staring at each other just a few days ago going, we know each other. We actually did a course together in 2008. So this is Dr. Joanne George. She's currently a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Queensland, and she's doing some really interesting research. So I thought I'd get her to come and talk a little bit about what you're doing. That'd be awesome. Want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Joanne.
So where should we start? So I'm a physio, and I was working in the Royal Children's Hospital and working with children 0 to 2 coming in who were showing developmental delay. And I was getting really frustrated at seeing these families battling so hard to get into early intervention services. Once they were in services, it was taking so long to get a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. And I thought, there's got to be more that we can do. And as a physio, I was really interested in early intervention, and at the time, this was 10 years ago, the evidence was coming out saying early intervention doesn't really make that much of a difference, and us clinicians are saying, but that's not what we're seeing. The earlier that families get into us, where they're families where the family has enough capacity to be taking what you're teaching in the therapy session into the home and doing it on a daily basis. One session a week or one session a fortnight was never going to make a difference, but when we could coach families and they could take what they learned into the home environment, we were seeing amazing differences. And so, although my passion was early intervention, I knew that one of the limitations was we didn't have good ways to identify at the earliest stage which babies needed these interventions. And so I started looking at, well, how do we get the evidence? How do we identify the children that are going to need early intervention at the earliest possible stage so we can get them into early intervention services? And hopefully, if we had very early, robust tools to identify these children, then by providing that information to the clinicians who are having to make the diagnosis, like cerebral palsy, which was being diagnosed at 2 years of age, even though the families knew that their children had something wrong. Surely if we could give really good early information to these diagnostic clinicians, they would have confidence to diagnose earlier than 2 years of age. And so I started a PhD at looking at early detection. How do we identify babies born? When babies are born prematurely, they have a much higher risk of developing cerebral palsy, and prematurity is the single biggest risk factor for cerebral palsy. But we needed to identify in those premature babies which ones were most at risk, so we could get those families linked in as early as possible. So I started the PRIMO study, which is looking at very early brain scans in preterm babies. So MRI brain scans are completely safe. They just hadn't been possible in tiny babies because these babies were being ventilated, had all sorts of medical challenges, drips and drains and feeding tubes and things. But we had an incubator that we could put in an MRI machine, and so we started a study doing very early MRI at 30 to 32 weeks post-menstrual age. So full term, as you know, is 40 weeks, but babies are surviving from 23 weeks, and so we looked at babies born less than 31 weeks, and we did very early MRI using this incubator. And then as a physio, we said, well, it's all good and well to get these fancy brain pictures, which are going to give us a lot of information, but if we don't know what the child's doing, then how can we possibly interpret that information? So we did a lot of clinical assessments as well. So we did that in the early stage while the babies were still in intensive care. We did it again at term equivalent age, and then we followed the kids up at 3 months, 12 months, 24 months. And we've just in the last 6 months started following up this cohort at 6 years of age. So really what we're trying to do is find very early markers, whether that's MRI, whether it's clinical or a combination of everything, to predict which children might need help with their movement or learning as time goes on, so we can link them into services as early as possible. So,
Joanne, you're so passionate. I actually really love hearing everything you have to say there. And I think really what that highlights is we have such passionate people in our industry right here in Australia that are actually shaping and influencing how services are even sought after, but right from the beginning, like finding them and making sure they're well linked in. And I just absolutely love that. So as someone that provides a lot of services on the other end, it's knowing that that is happening right from the beginning and we're all in it together. I just love that. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing what you do, and there'll be more of this to come next time. Thanks.
Thank you.